Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. Welcome. I'm so glad that you could come. Welcome to my Self-Care Sunday. My name is Cagen. I'm a Boston-based illustrator, an artist, and creator of Lunchtime Comics, as well as the co-founder and director of Comics in Color. And I'm so glad to have you here. Self-care, to me, means taking the time to do the things that you love to do. And what I love to do is make comics. I've made comics since I was a little kid. I was making them and taking them to my mom's office and photocopying them and giving them out to my friends and family. And I had a readership of probably about 12 people. Then in college, I worked at my college newspaper and started doing comics in the strip format there. And that was a really fun experience. And I discovered that I really liked telling short form stories. So then in 2016, I started doing Lunchtime Comics, a comic that's based on my life and my experiences and my family. And it became very therapeutic during the pandemic. I was able to use the comics to kind of express myself and talk about my experiences in the pandemic with my family being stuck at home. And they were published in Dig Boston, as well as I shared them on my social media. And I think a lot of people could really relate to being at home, trying to homeschool, trying to work from home, and figure all that out. So not only did it help me get through the early parts of the pandemic, I hope it helped some other people too, just knowing that they're not alone, because it felt awfully alone sometimes. So what we're going to do is make some comics. So to start out a comic, you've got to come up with a concept. I use myself, my own experiences, as storylines for my comic, and my family as characters. So it's a bit of a cheat to, but it makes it feel much more realistic, basing it on real world things and real world people, so that you don't have to, make up things and make them consistent, because you're talking about people that you know about and things that you know about. So that's the way to do it. So let's go ahead and make some comics. Okay, now let's start drawing a comic. Now, when you first create a comic, you want to establish what your characters look like. Now, the characters I'm working with from Lunchtime Comics are based on myself and my family. So it often adds a little bit of reality when you base things on real life people, places, or events. So when you start to design a character, you're establishing a language with your reader. You're communicating. You're telling them things, right? Like, who is this person? What can you tell about them visually? I always like to, do the circle, the head. It's a good way to establish position as well as height, and also keeping people's heads a size relative to one another that makes sense, right? So this character here, establish the center line. You can put the nose in, the eye line, reaching right up to there. Some expressive eyebrows. Eyebrows and mouths are really your two biggest tools for expressing how a character is feeling. besides language and body language. So establish the position of your three characters. Give them their center line and their eye line. Put the ear on there. I just like to put the ear in because it just gives that kind of reference to where everything else is going to be positioned. The eyes go, generally they line up with the eyes and the ears line up. Little necklines. And the characters start to take shape. So, the language that you establish with your readers, you have defining characteristics that define each character, right? So, the character of Papa, or one that's based on myself, has my signature glasses, has a beard, often wears a hat, right? A certain kind of hat. And that can change slightly, but just as long as, it's a hat. And then add a few freckles to really cement that it is me. Well, nice crew neck. The flow of the arms. Getting out to the hands. Fingers. I often, when I'm sketching out, I don't concentrate too heavily on the fingers. That's something I go back and I'll do later because fingers can be very tricky. Well, so you have the body position. Have the body stepping forward. Now, in comics, you often use you kind of exaggerate people's movements. Would you really be stepping? Would I be walking like this? Would a person be walking like this? Not really, but for the sake of the comic, it looks good. It look like a keep on trucking type situation, but there we go. We can make it a t-shirt. Let's pretend it's the summertime. Let's pretend we don't need masks on constantly. Because, like I said, in the comic world, you can make it whatever you want. Talk about self-care. Imagining a world with no COVID is self-care right there. So you establish a little walking action. His body language. The baby boy's body language here is just saying, ugh. Establish a nose. Establish a mouth. And of course, baby boy's defining characteristic is his beautiful head of hair and cute rounded face. All right. There you have baby boy, smaller body and stature, defeated look. His little shoulders slouching. And then followed up by Mama. Her long, beautiful hair. With comics, you don't really have to do every single strand in the head. Oftentimes, just the shape of the hair is more effective, but with the locks being kind of her characteristic that establish that this character, who they are, I think that it's important to get that detail on her, on her character. It's really her defining characteristic. So, I put the detail in the shape of baby boy's hair. And I also do the same for mama here. I'm going to give her a scarf because mama likes scarves. My wife likes scarves, so why not, right? Makes her more of a character. It's not uncharacteristic for the character. Give her a nice shape. There you go. There you have our 3 characters walking. Now, you want to establish their environment, so you give them a horizon line. I could use this handy dandy ruler. Horizon line. Boom. That definitely makes it look better. And this will help with when we ink it. So then we'll establish, we'll start putting the environment together with some happy trees. You could put one in the front here to make it kind of fill the space. Have enough to fill it back there to make it feel like a forest. Now you could add how it connects to the ground. Because it's not just a flat thing. There's the path along which they walk. Choo-choo-choo. All right. So there is the family walking in the woods. I think this is enough to establish the pencils. And, a little bit of detail. You can put as much or as little as you want in there. When you do the inks, of course, is what's going to be. This is all going to be erased away anyway. So it's not, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it to help figure out the shapes. Then you can start working in there to get the fingers. So that's all making sense when you go to do the inks. So there you go. And then we'll, oops, made her leg a little short, didn't I? Then we'll come back in with the inks and finish it up. Oh, of course you want to add in, your dialogue if you need it. Sometimes you don't. Then this one, we have a little dialogue we're going to add in. I'll be saying, breathe. I'm sorry. Fill your lungs with that fresh country air. I would rather be on the couch filling my belly with cookies. Kids got a point. You just draw your little boxes around them. There you go. Pencils in. Cool, we'll come back next and we'll do the inks. Okay, now we're going to come in and add some inks. For this, I'm going to use my Sakura ink pen by Pentel. It's a brush pen, has a really nice tip on it, makes some really nice quality lines. I really enjoy doing this. I haven't been, went digital a couple of months ago, probably right at the beginning of the pandemic, actually. And I've been doing a whole digital process. But before that, I was using this beautiful brush pen to do all my line work. I mean, digital is definitely a lot quicker and has improved the workflow, but I do miss the feeling of doing traditional inks, and it's a real skill. I can't say that I'm the best at it, because I'm definitely not. I know some guys who are, and women, who are amazing with the brush. But, you know, it was never really my strongest, but I really enjoy it. And if you take your time, you can come up with a really, really amazing line quality and add something to the comic. I still get these like flyaway lines sometimes that absolutely drive me crazy, and I end up fixing them in the computer anyway when I scan it in, as I'm sure I will do with this project here. But it allows you to do these heavy lines and nice curves, and you know, it's worth it to take it slow. It really does. It has a quality to the line that you just can't get with digital, I don't think, or I haven't gotten this kind of line quality on the digital platform. So, you know, it's definitely just a preference thing, and I really think it's worth, even for you young artists that are starting out digitally, to, you know, go back in and work with these traditional techniques. I think it will really make your digital work stronger. You just gotta take your time. I sometimes rush. That is the wrong thing to do when you're doing these brush pen, because a brush pen is not forgiving at all. If you mess up, you mess up. You either start again or learn to live with it. So I've learned to live with a lot. But this is about enjoying yourself and having fun. It's, you know, don't put too much pressure on yourself that it's got to be perfect. And that's kind of a lesson in and of itself. It's okay to be a little imperfect. I mean, in art in general, you know, some people say that the art is really in the mistakes. And sometimes it is. You know, of course you want everything to be perfect, but it's not going to be always perfect. So it's okay to make some mistakes, and as long as you're enjoying yourself, you're enjoying the process. That's why, you know, you really got to love art and comics to do this stuff, because sometimes it'll get a little frustrating. But if you love doing it, you're always going to have a great time. I mean, I'm enjoying this. I hope you are too. These lines in. you know? It's real precise. The eyes and the facial features you really gotta take your time with, because they are important and delicate. You know, it's you know, the feeling of the brush going across the paper is pretty amazing. And you can get these thick lines when you want to, and heavy dark blacks, which are the best. You know, deep shadows. And that, if you look at the quality of that line, you know, even from an amateur like myself, it looks pretty cool. And the shadows really are nice and contrasty and heavy. Look at that. That's really, it can be really enjoyable and fun to do, especially when you don't put too much pressure on yourself to be exactly perfect. And remember that, you know, scan it in and fix some things if you need to. I don't tend to hand letter things. I do that in the computer. So I will often just draw the box and get that part hand drawn. But once you've kind of established what the text is and where it goes, where it lays, I add this box in here, and then you can fill it with the text, right? And then, you know, you can get these little happy trees going. Don't have to do a lot of detail in the background, especially in comic strips. Sometimes in the strips, they sometimes don't even have, you know, backgrounds. They're just in a blank space. But I like to establish backgrounds. It's more of a comic book style that I work with, you know. And then one of the most satisfying parts of the inking process happens right at the end. We're almost there. When you get to take this, what looks like kind of a jumbled mess, honestly, right? Lines everywhere, different qualities, different colors, different layers, levels, and you get to erase away, and it just starts becoming what you hoped it would be. Right, little wavy lines to the path. Okay, now we're going to let it dry for a little while, and before we erase it and we reveal a more neat looking comic, and then we can touch up the finer points. So let's give it a couple of minutes to dry, and then we'll come back and erase it. Okay, we've given it a couple of minutes to dry. Now, we're going to take our handy dandy high polymer eraser. That's the kind that I enjoy. There's a couple different kinds that comic artists use. See, already. There, you have to go in and boop, 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 boop. Put the old beard in there. And touch up the finer points. I really shouldn't do until after I've erased everything, but you get the idea. It takes away all the chaos and reveals what's underneath, which is much neater, nicer. So obviously when you do this digitally, you don't have to do this whole part. That's one of the big benefits. But oops, that's a good reason to do it on a harder paper. But, okay. As you can see, reveals away, and out comes your comic, right? And of course you gotta go in there and fill in the finer points, shadows, you know, any lines you might have missed, because you always miss lines, you know. Establish some of these shapes a little bit better, so that when you do, if you decide you want to color it, it'll be a little more, okay, a little more put together. You don't have to do as much work on the computer. And there you go. As you can see, I've got some more erasing to do, but the ink is on there. All right. Next thing you can do is you scan it in if you've got a scanner, or you can just shoot it with a phone. I'm using the film here and bring it into the computer, and you can take it into a program like GIMP or Photoshop and add color or fix any little mistakes that you may have made. I see quite a few here that I would clean up here and there. But yeah, that's my process for making a comic.